Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to my review of a watch that I think represents a trend that we will see gathering pace over the course of 2025. Get ready to spit your chips, folks, because that trend is high quality quartz. Unlike colour trends, which tend to filter down from the top, think about the Tiffany Rolex Oyster Perpetual as a classic example. Rolex do it, and then before you know it, every other bugger is doing it as well. I think that the quartz trend is going to be led by microbrands, just like the Korean brand Pitzmann that I've got on my wrist today. The big Swiss luxury watch brands, by and large, they just don't make good quartz anymore. Omega no longer produces a quartz Aquaterra, and Longines dumped the VHP Conquest last year. Really, it's only the Japanese that are still taking good quality quartz seriously, with the likes of the Citizen Chronomaster and anything by Grand Seiko with a 9F movement, both of which, by the way, I have in my personal collection. However, you can still buy very good off-the-shelf quartz movements relatively easily and relatively cheaply, and then build your own cracking watch around them. And that is exactly what Pitzmann have done, as you're about to see. And that's what I think a number of other micros are going to do over the course of this year. You heard it here first, folks. Come back to this video in December and let me know whether I was right or I was wrong. Now, you saw the pop-up. This video is sponsored by Pitzmann. I will of course leave a link to their website in the description of the video. I have looked at two of their watches already, the Pitzmann 2 and the Pitzmann 3. They're going crazy with their nomenclature, are they not? This model, the Overture, is kind of like a quartz alternative to the Model 2, but with a different case and with one of the best clasps I've seen anywhere for the price. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Alright, let's start with a bit of a discussion around price today to set the scene. People are always price sensitive. I'm always price sensitive. I think people are extra sensitive when it comes to the price of quartz watches. There's a general perception that quartz movements cost $2, therefore every single quartz watch should cost no more than $5. Let me assure you, the quartz movement in this Pitzmann does not cost $2. I know because I bought 300 of these movements myself last year. The Pitzmann Overture therefore does not cost $5. It costs $549, available in either two different colours. They released this as a no date with a Rolex Celebration inspired dial earlier on last year. I'm glad I waited for this one. I prefer this simple dial, either ivory or khaki with date at 6. $549 or $599 with the rather spanking clasp that they sent me. So can the Pitzmann justify its price then? Can it shatter the perception that quartz watches aren't really worth all that much? Well, you get a 2-year warranty, which is nice to see. I got 3 spare links with this one, or at least once the watch was sized up for my 7-inch wrist, there were 3 spare links left, and the packaging is all very pleasant. I gotta say, just like the watch. Now, I guess there's nothing particularly remarkable about the watch itself. Pitzmann have pitched themselves as a Korean Grand Seiko. Hey, nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, if you're going to aim at a brand, if you're going to have a tilt at emulating one of the big brands, why not Grand Seiko? And this watch, indeed, the Overture, definitely takes some of its inspiration for the case anyway from the old 44GS case. But the dial, the handset, the bracelet don't look like anything from current or past Grand Seiko catalogue to me anyway. And neither do the colour schemes. Kind of interesting choice here, either ivory or khaki. Both colours normally associated more with field watches than with this style of everyday Gada style watch. But there you go, both certainly discreet choices, especially the khaki that they sent me. So we know how much it costs, but how big is it? Well, check out these dimensions and check out one of these dimensions in particular. 39mm in diameter, but only 8.5mm thick. That is the same as the Hamilton Jazzmaster that I looked at earlier on this week. I can't remember remember the last time I reviewed two watches that were sub 1 centimetre in the same week. Lug tip to lug tip of 45.6, 20mm between the lugs, bit of a taper down to 18, back up to 20 at the clasp. As sized for me, with those 3 links removed, it weighs in at 126 grams. Crystal is dead flat sapphire. Water resistance is 120 meters, because I guess why not? And the movement in the back, well, I gave you a sneak peek earlier on. It's an ETA F07.402. Screw-on stainless steel case back, and I presume that patterning is in reference to the celebration style dial that they launched this model with last year, and an interesting spec sheet around the outer edge, including the reference to Swiss quartz, the 120 meters no less of water resistance, a 68-month power reserve. Not hour, but month power reserve, and accuracy of plus or minus 10 seconds per year. Like I said, cracking little movement. I know you want me to do it. I'm going to do it. Let's have a look at it. And there we go. It's not a bad looking little movement at all, is it? These ones are only available in that nice gold colour. This one features an SR920SW battery that gives you 5 years of life. 5 years of power reserve, they call it. Now, this one is an ETA are owned by the Swatch Group, so it does feature in certain Swatch Group products, such as certain Certinas that are labelled as Pressy drives. But yeah, doesn't feature in enough watches, I don't think, and I'm hoping that is something that we see addressed over the course of the next 12 months. And there you are, that's that 44GS-esque case. Perhaps not quite the same from the side profile. The 44GS has a kind of midline to the case that this one lacks, but definitely reminiscent from the top down. Check the finishing. Very, very nice indeed. As I said, this is the third Pitzmann that I've looked at, and it's the third Pitzmann where I've commented that the finishing is just fabulous. And lovely, lovely piece of sapphire crystal. Flat sapphire with kind of blue-toned anti-reflective. You know, there's only so much that anti-reflective is going to do against my studio lighting, but from the top-down perspective, the glass just disappears. Truly a mark of a piece of high-quality crystal. Now, I am not the first person to get their hands on one of these, so if you're interested, make sure you watch a number of other reviews. A couple of other reviewers didn't like the crown. I have no such issues with the crown at all. I think it is perfectly sized, proportionally to the watch, and because you're only adjusting this one once every year, literally once every year, it's not a crown that you're going to be using all that often. But I had no problems using it. It's screw down, of course, the Pitzmann logo on the end there. Now, I believe the bracelet is a carryover from the Pitzmann 2 that I looked at back in 2023. Again, very, very nicely machined and nicely finished. 3-link, and it's proper 3 links. They're all separate links. Screws hold it all together. Again, very nicely done. They're small screws, but I had no problems adjusting them whatsoever. Now, brushed upper surfaces, however, each of the links has a high polish leading edge, an angular high polish leading edge. So you can see here, there's a lot of light play, and you'll see that on the wrist roll as well. So yeah, again, something that you're going to have to be all right with if you do want to wear one of these as a daily. But the interest here, for me anyway, lies with the clasp. Again, beautifully made, beautifully finished. I'll pop in a couple of macro shots of it here. Very, very nicely done indeed. Double pushers at the top, at the kind of north end of the clasp, if you will. Open it up, it's a double piece milled scissor, nice skeletonized milled scissor there as well. But the fun lies in the push button in the center. Doesn't take a genius to work out what's going on. You don't even need to take the watch off. Push that down and expand or contract depending on your preference over the course of a day. Only seen this a couple of times. Always enjoyed it. Haven't seen it at this price before. Love it. Dial and hands. Now, if you read the blurb on Pitzmann's website, which I dutifully did, they say that the colour scheme chosen has a kind of vintage vibe to it, referencing then the 44GS style case. Okay, but I still reckon it's a little more field watchy than Gada, particularly as they have chosen to make the dial finish both matte and textured. But there you go. Anyway, it's a mixture of applied and printed. We've got 2 lines of printed text above the pinion, the brand name and the place of origin, that being Seoul, and 3 lines of text beneath the pinion, the model name, the fact that this one is high accuracy quartz, and that outstanding 120 meter water resistance rating. Date window is nicely integrated and symmetrical at 6, but not color matched, and we have applied indices all the way around. Trapeziums at 12, 3 and 9, and circular applied indices everywhere else. And I'm sure you've noticed a slight yellowing to the indices and the hands. That's because Pitzmann have gone with a slightly retro style loom on this one as well. C3 old radium style, as you'll see in just a second. And there you go, C3 old radium style loom after dark then. Always a little bit of a compromise, never quite as bright as regular C3 or C1 or even BGW9, which has that ice white blue glow. It's a nice warm shade of green, but when I turn the speed up on this one, you'll see that the indices do fade fast. The hands hang on in there. Perhaps the indices could have done a little bit better considering they are applied. That's it on wrist, looks good and wears well. If you can see a little bit of dirt between some of these links, I'm not sure what I did with this one. I have been wearing it quite a bit, so yeah, I can say with confidence that it does wear nicely. 39mm, definitely a good size. I think the perfect size for this style of watch for the vast majority of people. 126 grams, also great, plus the adjustability of that excellent clasp. Overhead legibility, also excellent. It's not a big watch, but it does have that nice case profile. Nice mixture of brushed and polished surfaces from the case and the bracelet as well. See what I mean about the wrist roll though? All those little high polished edges catching the light, you can see that both inside and outside if I pop in a little bit of an outdoor wrist roll here as well. And there we are, that's that blue AR coating, undercoating to the crystal, paying dividends once more. Always a welcome feature. But what features are not quite so welcome? What are my moans and niggles with the Pitzmann Overture? Well, I've already hinted, or done more than hint, on a couple of occasions that the dial colours, perhaps a little bit underdone. I would have preferred to have seen this one launched with black, blue, white, maybe a couple of more interesting colours than the two slightly muted retro options that they have given us. I guess if you want colour, then go for one of those bright, vibrant celebration dial versions instead. Another minor niggle, I did say I suspected this was a carryover bracelet from a different watch. Have a look at the brushing between the end link of the bracelet and the lugs of the case. Bit of a mismatch there. I guess I have two other complaints about this one then. Very nicely finished, great to look at, but a little sharp to the touch. Not so sharp that it becomes a problem on wrist, but you notice it when you're taking the watch on and off your wrist. They could have been doing with putting a little bit of a chamfer on the under edges of those links, perhaps on the under edges of the bracelet clasp mechanism and the clasp itself as well. Like I said, not something you necessarily notice on wrist, but if you are taking this one on and off, not quite the tactile experience that one would hope for at this price. Talking of price, $599 with the clasp, because you really have to go for the clasp if you were getting this one. Why would you not be specking on that extra clasp? I think the finishing just has to be a little bit better. I mean, it looks great, but it could be a little bit more refined in hand for that price. I'd be much happier with this one at $499 than I am with it at $599. But I hope watches like this, the Pitzmann Overture, can start to bring high quality, high accuracy, high longevity, high power reserve quartz watches back into the marketplace where they belong, because there's definitely a dearth of them. There's definitely a gap at the moment. So there you have it. If you're still here, thank you. You are clearly at least open to the idea of a quality quartz microbrand watch. They just make so much sense as a daily wear piece or a grab and go piece sitting in the corner of your watch box. Personally, I really hope we see a number of high quality offerings just like this one over the course of the year. And then who knows, maybe the big Swiss brands will start paying attention to quality quartz again in the future. Now, I did say this was the third Pitzmann I had reviewed. If you want to check out the other two, click here or click here. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you all again in the next one.